The mainstream narrative already is how calamitous this is going to be for minority students. And I've heard you enough times to know your position is no, to the contrary, it's exactly the opposite.
Yes, I think it is exactly the opposite. The question here was not only for me the constitutionality, the dubious constitutionality of racial preferences. I also looked at the harm that these policies were doing to Black students, and so I think we saw what would happen when they went away because some states had eliminated race-based affirmative action in college admissions, like California back in the 1990s. And after California did it, Black enrollment in the University of California system went up. Black graduation rates went up, and not by a little bit. And in the more difficult STEM fields, they went up. So these were good outcomes. These policies had been put in place to supposedly help increase the ranks of the Black middle class. But in practice, they had been resulting in fewer Black doctors and lawyers and scientists than we would have had in the absence of the policy. So I'm so happy. I share your enthusiasm about the importance of today and getting rid of these policies. I think this is a decision that makes America more just for everyone, Megyn. No one should be discriminated against, not Blacks, not whites, not Asians, not Hispanics. And obviously the Asians were the plaintiffs in this case, but what kind of sense does it make to discriminate against Asians because of what whites did to Blacks? It makes no sense whatsoever. The best way going forward is not to discriminate, period.
Yes, exactly right. And the court said that. There was an original decision back in, I think it was 78, was Bakke. And then the court took another look at this in 2003 when Sandra Day O'Connor said, all right, we're going to allow it. We're going to continue to allow race to be a factor, but it cannot be the factor, which was the first time the Supreme Court actually sort of fully embraced what had been a very divided decision back in 78 and said, yes, okay, we stand by that, and that is the law. However, we can only see this taking place for another 25 years or so. Any race-based decisions would have to be evaluated under the strictest constitutional scrutiny, and we don't see this one withstanding scrutiny for more than the next 2 decades. And here we are. We're 2 decades later, not quite 25 years, but 2 decades after that decision, and the court finally saying, it's time. This is ridiculous. We can't keep doing this. And your justifications, Harvard and UNC, for continuing to use race as a factor are so vague and amorphous, no court could ever meaningfully assess them. You've been talking about that for a while too, because they basically say, well, it's just good for the student body to have a diverse collection of students. But how's the court supposed to put its finger on whether or not that actually is producing real benefits?
Right. No one can sort of quantify the benefits of diversity. Does it result in higher graduation rates? Does it result in higher earnings after graduating? No one can sort of determine exactly what these benefits are in a quantitative way, and the justices have called the schools out on that. They also called them out for essentially lying about using quotas. I was very happy to look at Chief Justice Roberts' majority opinion, where he actually includes a chart showing the numerical quotas that these schools had been using. He looks at a period between, I believe it's 2009 and 2019, and he shows how the percentage of Blacks and Hispanics admitted each freshman class at Harvard was right around 10 to 12%. And for Asians, it was right around 18 to 20%, year after year after year. And this was not a coincidence. He says, you guys are essentially using quotas and lying about it. And I was very happy for him to call them out on that, because that, again, out in California, when they overturned, when the ballot initiative ended racial preferences in college admissions, the flagship schools, Berkeley and UCLA, have been saying we don't use caps on Asians either. Yet after those preferences went away, after they could no longer take race into account, Asian enrollment spiked in the University of California system flagship schools. And so these schools have been lying for decades about using these quotas, and I was very happy to see the Chief Justice call them out on it.
Well, when you hear the Chief Justice describe the process at places like Harvard for admissions, it really does make clear that race is the final. It's both the initial and the final determining criteria, right?
It's
He
not.
walks you through.
Well, what we've learned is that if you allow it to be a factor, it will become the factor. That is what inevitably will happen. And they were so blatant about it. There's a study that was submitted in one of the briefs showing that an Asian, your typical Asian male student admitted to Harvard had about a 25% chance of admission. If you keep everything about him the same, all of his credentials, class rank, test scores, and so forth, and simply change his race to Black, his chances of admission went up to 95%.
Wow,
Megyn.
from 25
So race
to
was
95.
not just a factor or a tipping issue that tipped the scales a little bit. It was the factor, and it was wrong. It was wrong. And when I talk about the harm that these policies were doing, what they're essentially doing are setting up smart kids to fail. These minority kids are being funneled into these highly selective schools to make the college catalog look like America, to sort of color code the campus. They're window dressing. And when you're a bad fit for a school, you're less likely to graduate and to go on and have a profession and what you prefer. There was a study that was also submitted by the plaintiffs by a Duke professor of economics who did a study of freshmen at Duke, another highly selective school. And he found that Black males that were freshmen at Duke, about 76% of them expressed an interest in majoring in economics or one of the STEM fields, which was far higher than among white males. But only about 35%, less than half, actually ended up obtaining a degree in those fields, while the fall-off rate among whites was only about 5 percentage points. And he said the entire difference here was the entrance scores of the Black students. Duke admitted some Black kids who met the credentials of the average kid at the school, and those kids did fine. But Duke also admitted Black kids who did not meet the average credentials of everyone else at the school, and those kids struggled. They dropped out.
Can you talk about,
they
Jason,
switched to
because I know
easier
you've cited something similar happening at MIT, which really
Yes.
underscores this problem too. Can you tell that story?
Sure. This was another study done a little further back of Black students at MIT who were, they had scored in the 90th percentile of all kids in the country, white or Black, on the math section of the SAT. So these are some very smart Black kids. But among their peers at MIT, they were in the 10th percentile in terms of their test scores. So kids who would have been hitting it out of the park at a less selective university would have been on a dean's list at a less selective university were struggling at MIT. What is the point, Megyn, of flunking out of MIT instead of graduating from UC Santa Barbara? I mean, what are we trying to do here?
Ladies and gentlemen, my friends at GenuCell have extended your chance to get their most popular package featuring beautifully curated skincare essentials for life outside in the summer sun. Sun-soaked, humid, dehydrated skin covered in dark spots and puffy bags under the eyes, not attractive. It's a problem, though, for many people. But thankfully, GenuCell has the perfect answer. GenuCell's limited time summer essentials package includes their one-of-a-kind ultra retinol super moisturizer with a powerful plant extract that delivers results without the harsh side effects. And right now, get GenuCell's classic skincare therapy for under-eye bags and puffiness, one of the toughest things to treat. Plus, with its immediate effects product, you will get results guaranteed in 12 hours or less. Go to GenuCell.com/MK60 right now to get your GenuCell Summer Essentials package for over 65% off. 65% off! And just for the summer, every subscription order includes a customized summer spa gift box, absolutely free. And for one more week, every Summer Essentials package includes their nourishing vitamin C serum for a visibly clear complexion. Don't wait. Go right now to GenuCell.com/MK60. 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 Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.